Do you travel with confidence? Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but we have someone here who has a lot of experience with travels. Pauline, welcome back,
That's
Pauline.
right. Whether or not it's with confidence, I do travel a lot.
All right. Well, Pauline, have you ever missed a flight?
Yeah, so many
All right.
times.
What are some of the reasons for that?
Well, there's so many reasons you might miss a flight. Of course, when there's weather issues or technical issues with one of the flights, then I am always flying multiple flights, and it seems like constantly that kind of thing happens,
Yes.
where then all of a sudden you're missing all the next flights.
Oh
and you have
yeah,
to get
once one is
rearranged.
delayed, it can mess everything
Right,
up.
but not to say that's always
Right,
the reason,
right.
because sometimes it's been my fault.
Yes.
The worst that I remember was one time I went to check in for my flight, got checked in, and I was quite early, so I still had an hour and a half before I needed to go through security. So my mom and I went outside and sat on some benches and just enjoyed the last little bit of our time together. And then I went in to go through security and couldn't find my passport. And then it was this panic for hours trying to find my passport and not getting to go. I missed the flight, but the good news is we finally found the passport. I was able to leave, but that was the worst.
Oh, wow. That happened to me sort of something like that just the other day. I was at the customs counter and I was looking in my pockets like, where's my passport?
Oh, that's the worst feeling.
And I'm like, oh no, thank God my wife had it in her bag. So it only took a few minutes, but I'm like, did I leave it on the flight? That is the worst.
Oh,
You
that
need your
panic
passport.
feeling all of a sudden just.
Anyway, well, do you have any tips for this? Like, you've flown a lot, right? What are some tips that you have?
Well, one other tip I would add that the article doesn't mention, I know it gives you a lot of great tips that, supposedly you don't have to arrive so early, but it's really important to understand when you're traveling. And if you're traveling during a very high travel time, for example, Chinese New Year, you really need to think about, is even 2 hours early enough, because the lines can just get crazy. So that's one of the things I would suggest, is be aware not just of your own flight and plans and making sure you're there at a reasonable time, to think about the overall picture. Is that reasonable for this specific time if it's a holiday?
Really good point. We also talk about Rome in this month's travel article. We talk about the Spanish Steps, and they have a new law that makes it illegal to actually sit on those iconic steps. What do you make of this, Pauline?
Oh, it's always a little sad when you hear that you can't enjoy this experience that's been so a part of visiting an area. It feels like such a loss for the tourist, and for those of us that haven't been there yet. You think, oh, I missed my chance. And so that is always hard. But at the same time, I appreciate the motivation behind it, wanting to protect these special historical sites. I mean, they have to do something. We want them to be around for future generations, not just for ourselves. And so in the end, I do appreciate the rationale behind it.
All right, so you may miss out on that, but you can still go and visit them, right? And so there's something still to enjoy, but we have to protect those historical sites, right? Well, thanks for joining us for this segment of Insights, and make sure you check out this travel article. We don't want you to miss your next flight, so make sure you check it out and be on time the next time you go to the airport.